In this age of new normal, online is not your only option. Because new normal means new learning modalities and new learning possibilities. Let Vibal make learning offline possible with Smart Class. Smart Class contains pre-made daily modules sequenced according to DepEd's budgeted teaching and learning calendar. Each module has a specific lesson duration and has day markers to guide parents and teachers in the asynchronous learning of learners. Inside the modules available in Smart Class, you will find the following elements. First, learning competencies are identified in the module openers. Kickstarters are available to test students' prior knowledge on the subject matter. This set of activities, found at the beginning of each lesson, may also serve as motivational activities. Parents of preschool to grade 2 students will also find notes to parents which contain tips and pointers on how they can guide their child while learning at home. Redefine your students' learning experience with the integration of augmented reality technology into images and illustrations available in Smart Class, making learning more interactive and exciting. At the end of each module, Long Quiz is also available to assess students' understanding of the lesson. Smart Class also features Wrap Up, a lesson ender activity that applies the constructivism theory of learning. In Wrap Up, students are expected to summarize the lesson on their own using a graphic organizer. You may also evaluate the quality of your students' learning by letting them practice their learning in real life through GRASP's formatted performance tasks. The content of Smart Class is designed for the entire academic year, and it is available for 5 major subjects. All aligned with DepEd's K-12 curriculum and covers the most essential learning competencies prescribed by DepEd. Secure your own copy of Smart Class before classes open. Contact marketing@vibalgroup.com to know more.
Good day, Kabibal, and welcome to our Facebook Live learning session. For the discussion today, the topic will be on developmentally appropriate practices for preschool and SPED. Before we begin, kindly take note of the following reminders. Make sure you're registered to the webinar to have your e-certificate of participation. Visit certificate.bibalgroup.com to generate your proof of attendance. Place your questions in the comment box allotted during the session, and they will be addressed by our speaker later on. Share the video using hashtag LearnAs1PH is our official hashtag to our Vibal webinars. Experience learning, Kabibal. And now, to proceed with our webinar this morning, it is my pleasure to introduce to you our speaker. Teacher Margaux Palencia is a SPED teacher and an advocate for 20 years. She finished psychology degree from the Philippine Normal University and obtained her postgraduate course in Master in Arts major in Special Education from the La Salle University, Manila. She obtained her second postgraduate course in Master's in Education, major in School Administration from RTSIMI. At the same university, she completed her doctorate degree in education, and currently she is the school principal of a progressive education for preschool of KIDS COO in Ortigas, or Kids Coco in Ortigas, and Executive Director of Academic Training and Learning Center in Quezon City. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Margaux Anne Palencia.
Good morning! Hi, good morning po. Good morning, ka-teachers. Hello po, magandang umaga for the introduction. So, once again, I'm here to share with you some tips when it comes to teen, young children, and children with depression. So, thank you for that wonderful introduction. So, my topic for today is Developmentally Appropriate Practices for Preschool and SPED. So just to give you a background, although you have heard so much of the introduction ago, just to make things lighter, I'd like to give you some, some introduction of myself. So I'm 20 in the field. I'm a principal for almost a decade, and educator. I of John Dewey, Eric Erickson, Lev Vygotsky, and then I'm an advocate of inclusive education for the differently abled student. Being a SPED teacher is a career and a personal move for me because I love kids with special need. At the same time, I'm an aunt of two kids with special needs. Of course, on the brighter side, I love dogs and I love 80s music. And if I have time and my time permits, I love to watch different kinds of series. And if you would like to follow my Facebook page, it's at Teacher Margaux. So, moving on. So why do we need to understand that, or what is that actually? So from the term, from the introduction or from the title, it's developmentally appropriate practices. This is something that is not new. It's not really new to us. I'm sorry. I hope you can see my screen now. All right. Okay, so Uh, again, the topic is developmentally appropriate practices. And as I said a while ago, why do we need to understand this topic, or why do we need this? Actually, this is not from me. This is, of course, in the literature. It's a product of research, and DAP stands for developmentally appropriate practices. And of course, an educator, as I told you a while ago in my brief introduction of myself, I I am a progressivist, so I follow the works of Eric Erickson, John Dewey, and I believe that teaching young kids or young learners at the same time, of course, teaching children with special needs is a different story. I would not say it's hard, but of course, it's challenging. At the same time, we can use different approaches, and one of these approaches that we or approaches or perspective, of course, in education we have a lot of perspective, we have a lot of approaches. For example, some of us might want to stick with our traditional ways. For example, like you just want to do teacher discussing everything, you are recording everything, of course, especially in this time of the new normal. Well, it's up to you. So as educators, we have our different cup of teas. And for me, as a believer of progressive education, I believe in learning by doing, and by means of that, I believe that we don't only hone, we don't only cater the needs of a child in terms of cognitive aspects, something like that. Okay, so but first and foremost, as educators also, mga ka-teach, mga kabibal, it's very important for us that everything that we implement in our classes or whatever we want to adopt, we can always practice blended learning, we can always practice eclectic approach in preschool and in SPED, but it's very important that when you choose something that you're going to use in your classroom or in your school, or like the curriculum that you are going to use in your respective schools, it's very important that there is a research background. That's one thing that I am very particular with. So why do we need to understand and use that? For me, before I explored the use of different developmentally appropriate practices in my field, I have to read on some of the researches, and some researches focus and presented to us the effects of this. So One research is what is the effects of DAP on learning. So according to this study of Huffman and Spear, uh, a growing body of evidence supports the effectiveness of developmentally appropriate practices in enhancing children's learning. So there are already people who are so interested, but as you can see on the screen, these researches were just, just recent. I mean, 2000 and 2003 is still recent for when it comes to research, which means that this is the new trend, or this is the future direction of special education. This is the future direction of early childhood education. um, Basically, this approach or this perspective is more for the early childhood education. But since we have early intervention also in SPED, for all the SPED teachers who are listening to me now, uh, you can also use this because we always have children whom their intellectual capacity at the same time, everything, the developmental milestones are delayed. So we can always use this also as a perspective or an approach. So there is a growing evidence. It is said that there is growing evidence that this is effective for young children. And then there is also another research that I have seen. This is the effects on social emotional development. I believe now that there is this aggressive uh, aggressive effort to make our students socially and emotionally intelligent, especially in this time of pandemic. So sabi nga po, it's very important that the children can also manage their emotions. Now we already use the term people smart, that people who are uh, individuals who are people smart can go a long way. So if you believe in this, then you can also explore on this kind of perspective. So in observing numerous preschool classroom, Stepek and her colleagues found the positive effects of among teachers and children seem to go along with developmentally appropriate practice. Later on, I would explain to you how can this be very helpful for us, especially for the teachers of the young learners, or teachers of the students who have developmental delays. Okay, so, and one more thing, aside from, there is a growing research stating the effects on social emotional development, on cognition. This is also being implemented by the Department of Education. So for those who are not so familiar with what we are doing now in preschool, the Department of Education in from the kindergarten curriculum guide, or the KCG guide, you will see it. This is the website of the Department of Education. This is uh, you can look up the DO order, or the DepEd order 47, series of 2017. You can see what this tells us about. And in our respective DepEd schools, they are already adopted this. So let me show you the KCG framework. Why do we need to learn, and why understanding developmentally appropriate practices is also important for us. So this is the kindergarten curriculum framework. So as you can see, this is how we teach. In your respective screen, this is not from me, this is from the DepEd Order 47. And this is all about what should a kindergarten curriculum or our preschool curriculum should look like, or how are we going to implement it. So if you're going to look at this, you will see that according to the Department of Education, when they started the K-12 curriculum, or when they implemented the mandatory kindergarten, there are some changes in the way that we need to approach our uh, kids. Okay, so one of this is it has to be child-centered. And if you're going to look at um, the figure, you will see there's also a flower-like shape wherein ang nakalagay po dyan ay yung mga developmental areas, not the subjects. The subjects just follows in that yellow circle. And then you will see also the blue circle wherein everything that you are learning in school should be used outside, or it should be generalized. As we say in education, there should be generalization, acquisition of skills, which means that you have to implement it in your, I mean, the child, whatever the child is learning inside the classroom or in his school should be used in his family, in his school, in his community, and the things around me. So we are trying to make the child holistic. And I'm not going to go over all of this. I'm just stating that in the last box, you will see that developmentally appropriate practices is included in this curriculum guide. It says that whatever we are doing in the preschool education, it has to be developmentally appropriate. It has to be age appropriate. Well, if you do developmentally appropriate practices, definitely you are doing it age appropriately. And then it has to be individually appropriate as well. And it is also social culturally appropriate. So these are the things that we need to consider. And this is also the reason why we educators of young learners and children with special needs, we need to explore this thing because it is not an option now. It is actually in the curriculum guide given by the Department of Education. That's why when Vipal asked me uh, to what are you going to discuss, I thought I would like to share this thing to my fellow teachers like you, because I know that all of us are having a hard time now, especially when you are a preschool teacher, when you are a SPED teacher, and you have to do synchronous and asynchronous. Maybe this can help you out, and this can add to whatever you are doing. I know that you are doing fine and well. I know that you have prepared already when it comes to the lessons that you are doing, but maybe this could extend some more of what you're doing. Okay. So the figure illustrates, as I've said, no, all of this, it has to be the teaching learning of the early years. Sinasabi that it has to be constructivist, it has to be integrative, it has to be thematic, collaborative, inquiry-based, reflective teaching, and we should also use play-based approaches, which is used, of course, in progressive education, and with the application of the developmentally appropriate practices. So what I'm trying to say is this is not really a choice, but we really need to embrace this. We really need to use this. Maybe we cannot use it fully if we are just starting, but if we know the basic, maybe we can use some of its technique. So I'm gonna go to my lecture proper. So let's define first what is developmentally appropriate practices. So if you want to read more about developmentally appropriate practices, you can search different scholarly journals. One is one literature that you could really read. I'm gonna share it to you is the position paper of Nayek. Later you will see that they have made researches and they are the ones really pushing for DAP, and how has this been used in other Western countries, and how they find this very helpful and effective. So let us first define what is developmentally appropriate practice. It's a perspective. So again, there are a couple of times wherein some teachers would say that what you believe might not be um, applicable to me. Well, I believe in that, and then that's why we have our, as I've said, we have our different perspectives. So that is a perspective in ECE. So it's up to you or your school or you as an educator. It's up to you whether you want to use this, whether you want to incorporate this. You don't really have to use this solely, but if you're just gonna get the principle of it, that's also fine and normal. It could also help in your curriculum. So it's a perspective. It means that it's an approach, but it's optional. It's really up to you teachers if you want to use it. But when we say perspective, it is research based. It means that there are already a lot of schools who are using it. Okay. Number two, or another one, what does developmentally appropriate practices uh, do? It nurtures the child's social, emotional, physical, and cognitive development. So if you're going to look at this definition, this pertains, when we use DAP, it also pertains not only to the cognitive ability of the children, but instead we make the children develop in all their different developmental domains. But when I was growing up, when I was in preschool, when I was in my primary years, I was raised to do good and do best in terms of cognition. Like you have to be in the honor roll, you have to memorize a lot of things. But it's the other way around in developmentally appropriate practices. So in developmentally appropriate practices, or DAP, social, emotional, physical, cognitive, language and communication, self-help skills are all to be developed. We don't really just focus on one thing. So this is the difference from the traditional curriculum that we normally experience. I believe, and you teachers who are out there who are almost of the same age as mine or older than me, or we were reared and raised in a community or in a school community wherein our priority is intellectual quotient. So that's the perspective of a traditional curriculum. But in DAP, it is a different thing. So we need to focus on the different areas of development of a child. So if you're watching TV, if you are, if you are a mom and you have this baby book given by the doctors, we don't really just measure the baby's growth, because when we speak of growth, it's only about the physical maturation of the children. But of course, when we speak of the children, there's always growth and development. And of course, development, you don't really see it physically. Growth, we can see it physically. But when we speak of development, it has a lot of stages. It has a lot of areas that we need to develop. So that's one thing that I really wanted you teachers to remember when it comes to that when we are going to incorporate developmentally appropriate practices in our classrooms, the first thing that you have to remember is you have to focus on the different areas of development of the children. Okay, and then it is also individualized and culturally based. So we can change our lessons. We can differentiate our lessons, because not all children are the same, although they follow a certain milestone all at the same time, and the milestones are standardized, I believe. uh, Still, they will not, 10 kids in your class will never be the same. They will always change. They have different and unique talents. So you also have to look into that detail. Right. So ways of teaching children that engage children's interest and adapt for their age. Basically, mga kabibal, when we speak of DAP, we always pertain to the age. Well, actually, nowadays, it's a little, it's easier to do developmentally appropriate practices, because, back in the days when I was teaching, our curriculum is not age based. We just need to go to grade 1 by 7. It's like that. But when it comes to the preschool education, back in the days, it's a little different. It's like, even you're already 5 years old, but you and you haven't been in any program in the preschool education, they will always put you in nursery, even though you're already so big. If you're not already fitted to be in the nursery level, but because there was the practice before, but now um, we are now following age-based curriculum. For example, uh, you are 5 years old, automatically you have to be in the kindergarten level. But if you are in a private school, now we start nursery is 3 to 4, 4 to 5, and then we just have all these bridging programs if these children are late or they go to school late. But automatically when you reach 6, you have to be in grade 1. So now we are in that era wherein we use age in terms of um, grouping our kids. So it's a little easier to do DAP because DAP is age based. Okay, so but of course age based when we speak of early childhood learners or the kids who doesn't have developmental delays. But of course when we speak of children in the special education, what we refer to this age is their developmental age too. Of course there's a difference between chronological age and developmental age. Of course when we are dealing with preschoolers, we will use the chronological age, but when we deal with children with special needs, we have to deal or we have to look into and consider their developmental ages. And these are the ages that these are the areas of development wherein what they can do at a particular time, because later I will explain that to you. All right, so according to the studies, or of course according to the position paper of NIAC, or that is the National Association of National Education for Education of Young Children, which is of course based in the US. According to the NIAC, developmentally appropriate practices is equivalent to effective early education. So you may not agree with me right away, but if you're really concerned and if you really want to explore more for your students, please try to read more about that. All right, so let us have these 3 very important considerations in developmentally appropriate practice. Just in case that you are into this, you like this topic, you like this perspective, these are the things and these are the considerations that you have to do in your classroom. By the way, I'm just sharing with you, I've been doing that for the longest time, and because this is what we need in ECE. This is what I see effective in progressive childhood education, and this is what we use, of course, in special education. So number one is knowing about child development and learning. So what do we mean by this? So it's very important that before you consider using that in your school, in your classroom, you must also believe that there is a development and learning in the child, or there are stages. It's very important that we always consider the stages of development of the children. Maybe you will ask me, Teacher Margaux, how can we monitor? How can we know what are the things that a 3 to 4 year old can do? We're not psychologists, we're not doctors. How can we do this? The first resources that you can use is the ECCD checklist of the DSWD or the ECCD checklist of the Department of Education. Because in preschool education now, in our DepEd schools, we don't really have numerical grades, but instead you have your ECCD checklist. Or what is inside in the ECCD checklist? The things that are written in the ECCD checklist are called developmental milestones. Now, for some schools, if you want to add up more, if you want to do some more, you can just explore, you can just research about developmental milestones. Actually, it's all in the internet. You can read about, you can even have your own copies from them there. But one consideration that you have to know is you have to believe also, and you have to know that children follows these certain stages so that you can blend it with your current curriculum. At the same time, so that you will understand also where are you going to find all these things that you want to embed in your present lesson. Number two, knowing what is individually appropriate. So we also need to learn what is the present level of performance of a child. So what do we mean by this? Of course, there's always have to be this assessment. That's why if you are going to read that depth and order about the kindergarten education, there are two kinds of assessment that we do. The first one is formative assessment, and the other one is summative assessment. So when we do formative assessment, we will know what is the present level of performance. Well, formative assessment is like a pre-test. It's non-graded. It's only used for you to plan. That's why it's formative. What kind of lessons are you going to give to your children? But since we are dealing with young children and children with special needs, we have to do this individually appropriate. Of course, the teachers who are in SPED, who are listening to me, I know that you know that we cannot work in special education if we don't have individualized education plan. So therefore, we can use developmentally appropriate practices in SPED because we do this individually. Okay, number three, knowing what is culturally important. Especially, my dear friends, my dear ka-teachers, ka-bebal, I know that the people who are watching this webinar is all over the country. I'm not here for the first time. I'm a constant here in Vibal. I see that we have teachers all over the Philippines watching, and we know that we have different cultures in the Philippines. You go to Visayas, there's a different culture. You go to Luzon, there's a different culture. You go to Mindanao, there's a different culture. So please, when you want to consider developmentally appropriate practices in your respective classrooms, please consider what is culturally important and how are we going to do this. How are we going to do this? Of course, you have to know the family's background. You know what kind of family they have. They came from. This is not to judge, but this is for you to understand the children better. All right. So according to Couple and Brady Camp, to successfully engage in developmentally appropriate practices, teachers need to do the following. So first, meeting children where they are. So again, I have said this, if you want to do that, you have to know what the child can generally be capable of. Or I always refer to this as their present level of performance or present level of educational performance. This is a term that we use in special education, but we can always use this in everywhere. I mean, I think establishing the present level of performance is very, very much similar with just giving a diagnostic test every time you're gonna start your class or every time that you will meet a new class. So it's very important. It's like this, teachers. You cannot, I mean, I believe in the saying that you cannot give what you don't have. So with the children, they cannot give you things that they are not yet capable of doing. So what you can do is understand them. Where are they? What they can do. So if you're a preschool teacher, if you are a nursery teacher, before you go to your class, before you teach, you try to read the developmental milestones of a 3 to 4 year old. Then you will understand how their minds work, what kind of activities that they can do in terms of gross motor and fine motor. What are the things that you have to develop to them in terms of social emotional? Is this the time for sharing? Is this the time for waiting one's turn? Everything is there, so you need to know first and meet them where they are so that your instruction will be effective. Okay, number two, helping children reach challenging and achievable goals. Again, in my 20 years of practice, I've seen teachers who keep on pushing and pushing children, and these children cannot give because it's not yet their time. Children follows a certain sequence. Halimbawa po, the child cannot walk right away. The child has to crawl. And if you pass crawling and ask the child to stand up right away, there will be drawbacks in the future because we have primary milestones that we need to do. Now, in that, we need to help children reach challenging and achievable goals. How are we going to do this? By giving them appropriate goals, by understanding them, by because when you know what a child can do at a particular time, you will not give them task which is very very easy for them, and you will not give them task which is very hard for them, which will be impossible for them to understand. So what you can do is you're going to give them something that they can do, but there is a little challenge that, and when you give that to the children, that's the time that they will strive. They will try to achieve and reach whatever challenging goals that you're going to give them. Okay, now let's go to the principles of that. We have some principles which are very very easy. So if you are into this, mga kabibal, you can follow all this. This is a very simple principles that we can use in ECE and in SPED at the same time. These are very very self-explanatory, but of course I'm going to give you examples for today. So the first one is all areas or all domains. When I speak of areas and domains, I'm referring to, you might want to write it down. I'm referring to the developmental areas. So basically we have 5 developmental areas which are all important. So what are these? 5 areas or domains of development. So when you bring your children to the pediatrician, they only, of course, they don't right away measure their cognitive ability. There are other things like language and communication, physical motor, gross and fine. Gross motor, of course, refers to the large muscles like jumping, crawling. No, if you're gonna explore it, if you try to test a 3-year-old kid, this children cannot kick and throw a ball right away because it's part of the milestone, and we are to teach them. So if you really don't know what to do in your physical education, you might want to look at the areas of development of a 3 to 4-year-old in terms of gross motor. It's all over the research. There are scholarly journals about this. You can even download this in the internet. You can use the ECCD checklist. It's all there, mga ka-teach. Okay, so we also have social-emotional and ADL, or activities of the daily living, and self-help. That's why now in your respective preschools and SPED schools, we ask the children to bring their hygiene kits. We ask them to brush their teeth. We ask them to pack away. These are all part of the daily activity, the activities of the daily living or the self-help. As I've said, the world is changing. We are trying to hone children. The children now is way 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 different from what we have 20 years ago, 25 years ago. It's really different. Now the children, I don't know, according to one research, the children now are learning faster because they don't learn when they were born. As I've read what research, they said that whatever we have, or our ancestors, what we have, is being passed. Actually, it's being hardwired to the kids that we are going to produce. Or if if I will have my kid, whatever I have in my mind can be transferred to my kid, but it's just to my child. But it's just, we have to trigger it, we have to bring it out by giving proper exposure, but by honing whatever talents that we can give to the child. So always remember, one principle, the first principle of that is we have to consider the 5 areas of development, right? Next, all areas, domains of development follows a sequence. I've said this a while ago, that we have this so-called primary milestones that a child should really go through. And skipping a sequence is not good for the kid. So let me show you. So this is very similar to the baby books that you have, and this is what a developmental milestones looks like. So as you see, there a 1 month old is doing a different thing compared to a 3 month, and then compared to 7 months, compared to 15 months, 15 to 24, 2 years. So this follows a sequence. Like, you cannot sit without you um, without you rolling on the other side first, something like that. Okay. Okay, number three, development and learning proceed at a varying rates. Yes. Um, well, in preschool, it's of course we know that not everybody reads at the same time. There are kids who are fast in learning, fast in reading, fast in mathematics. So when you're practicing developmentally appropriate practices, please give them time. As I've said, this is also individually based. Right. So now in the field of special education, as I've said, there are different learning procedures and varying rates. No, like I'm going to show you one sample. If you're gonna look at your screen, this is an assessment report from a developmental pediatrician. Those doctors are the one who give the developmental age, as I've said, the developmental age, which tells us what is the present level of performance of the children. So you can see here, this child is almost 6 years old, but the learning varies. In terms of locomotor, it's 5.5. In terms of personal and social, it's 4. In terms of hearing and speech, which is language and communication, it's 3.5. So children in your classes can also be like this. They have different, or they learn in they learn in different ways. They learn in uh, they learn in different levels. So this is what I'm referring to. Number four, development and learning result from the interaction of maturation and experience. So it's very important for the children. Children, whether we like it or not, will of course will mature. They will have physical growth. They will have emotional growth. But we have to combine the growth maturation, or the physical maturation, and the experiences. We have to combine it together so that they can develop fully well. So what I'm trying to say is, of course, if you already know what they can do, if you already know the things that um, they can do at a certain time, you can make these activities, have them experience it, so that you can really contribute to their maturation. Number five, early experiences have profound effects on development and learning. Yes. So according to the theories of Piaget, if you know Piaget, Lawrence Kohlberg, Eric Erickson, whatever. For example, I think the best example is an example of Eric Erickson, which means that it starts with trust versus mistrust, and then we have autonomy versus shame and doubt, uh, initiative versus guilt. So we have to we have to plan what are the kind of experiences that we are going to give them. We even have to plan the responses that we are giving them. Kaya po, parang totoo din talaga yung sinasabi ng mga nakatatanda, wherein sinasabi nila kung ano yung ginagawa ng bata, yun din, ay kung anong ginagawa ng matanda, yun ang ginagawa ng bata. Because the early experiences, the examples that we are giving them as really profound effects on their development and learning. So, sabi nga po, no, I've read one book also. It states, the book says that everything you need to learn, you learn in kindergarten, which means that it's very important for us to teach these children, I mean, make the best out of their preschool years. At the same time, when we speak of special education, it's also very important because the early intervention phase, for those people who doesn't understand my language when it comes to SPED, when we speak of early intervention, that is our like our preschool in special education. We know already na EI, or our early intervention, is our make or break. So whatever we do everything, or we do our best when it comes to giving them experiences. I mean, bringing out the best in them in this time. Sabi nga, kapag na, ano po yan, after 7, medyo mahihirapan na po tayong i-bridge whatever we have missed. Alright. Number 6, development goes from simpler to the more complex and difficult in all domains or areas of learning. So if you're going to read the developmental milestones, if you're going to read the ECCD checklist, you will see that it's from simple to going to more complex. So I hope that we also consider this when we teach the children, is that we have to start simple. We have to sabi nga, simple lang, baby steps po, until makarating sila doon sa mga mas complex na bagay. Being advanced, I have heard so many parents who are telling me, ay hindi, gusto ko kasi na maging advanced siya. Gusto ko kasi, okay po yun. But doing advanced lessons, enrolling in different enrichment centers, it also varies po. Depende din yun kung paano nagawa yung foundation ng isang bata. So it's very important that we really focus first on the foundation of the simple terms, of the simple concepts. For example, the basic concept in mathematics, we have to establish that when they are still young. Okay. Number 7, children develop best when they have secure relationships. So as teachers po, inside our classrooms, it is very important that we are also ready in what we signed for. Teaching children with special needs, children with in the early childhood education, is not an easy task, because the responsibility is very big. First and foremost, there are a lot of things that you need to develop on that child. At the same time, you have to be very stable as a person, because you have to be a role model. And kasi ganito po yan, imagine nyo na lang, in preschool, most especially in toddler school and in nursery, you just put in mind, mga ka-teach, na this is the first time that they are going out of their homes. Of course, when they are at home, they are sheltered, they are loved. And imagine, they are going out. They are going out of their houses, leaving their parents, going to school. So they also need to feel accepted. They also need to secure good relationship. Kaya nga lagi sinasabi ng mga teachers ay pangalawang nanay. Kasi nga po, pag alis ng mga bata sa bahay, tayo yung susunod nilang pagkakatiwalaan. So, you need to have a lot of love, a lot of patience in your heart when you want to teach, or when you are teaching early childhood learners, and of course, special learners. Okay, number 8, development and learning occur in and are influenced by multiple and social contexts. So, you also have to understand po na learning is not only coming from you, especially in this time. The children are so fast, they are so complex. Why? Because of the internet. They learn faster. They even learn before their teachers, because everything is available online. So we have, as teachers of that, we also have to adapt to this. And we have to always remember that all the information is not only from us. There is social. Of course, when we speak of social, the first interaction is the immediate family. And of course, the cultural context. This pertains to regional affiliations, or, like mga probinsya saan nanggaling. Sometimes politics, religion is also contributing factors when it comes to the influence of the children. Number 9, children learn in a variety of ways. So when you are to practice that, you have to remember that these children, they have hundreds of languages when they want to learn. So we need to explore those ways. Like some children, they learn best when they are doing it. Some children learn when they listen to it. Some children learn when they see it. So that's why I said you have to know or meet the children where they are, as as one of the opening statements a while ago. Okay, number 10, this is one of my favorite principle of that. Play is an important vehicle for developing self-regulation and promoting language, cognition, and social competence. Some people would say, especially in progressive education, they would say, oh, why do you always play? Well, I just like to remind everybody that playing is the basic occupation of the children. If you are to ask a child, what do you want to do? You want to read or do you want to play? They will always say, of course, I want to play. But if you incorporate reading in playing, they wouldn't even notice that you are teaching them reading because they are playing. And who says that we don't learn in playing? I remember when I was young, there was this game wherein you play with your classmates, nanay, tatay, and you clap how many times, right? Um, who says it doesn't promote learning? You have to, and then when you're wrong, they will tell you that you are wrong, and you have to have consequences. So that's part of playing. I remember you play 10-20, which is keep counting by tens, right? So playing, but of course, there's also learning. I remember there's one game, or now you will see how old I am. There was also a game, Monkey Annabelle, wherein how many monkeys do you see? So you have to count how many playmates do you have. So when we do playing, it's just when you use playing inside your classroom, you just have to have a goal. That is the difference by just playing and structured playing. When we speak of structured playing, it means that uh, you need to have a goal. You have to meet a goal. Like, what do you want the children to learn with this game? So when your focus is on that, then that's part of that, or you are using a principle of that. Okay, number 11, development and learning happens best when children have a challenge that is just beyond where their skills are at the moment. So as I've said, we don't give them too hard. We don't also give them too easy tasks. Okay. And then number 12, what children experience at home and especially at school affects how they think and feel about learning. So make learning fun for the kids. And how are we going to make this fun for them? Of course, we meet them where they are right now. Okay. So those are the 12 principles of DAP. Okay. So I'm on the last stretch of my lecture for today. So just in case that I've said so much about principles, about the researches, these are very simple things that if you want to do or start at least start developmentally appropriate practices in your respective homes, if you are homeschooling, or if you want to involve the parents or you in your respective classroom during your synchronous and asynchronous learning, you can somehow adopt this. Of course, these are not mine, but this is from, of course, the literature. There are 12 things that you can do to make your class or your home more developmentally appropriate. Number 1, have an art area open throughout the day. For the moms out there, or teacher moms out there, not really this grand. I know na pala, oy, wala naman akong ganyan, wala akong ganyan. For me, as simple as, like me, I have a nephew who likes to write everywhere. So the walls are endangered. So what I do is I place one not so small whiteboard, and I put some cartulinas, place it on the wall, so he could write anytime that he liked. He could stamp anything that he liked. He can stick whatever he wants to stick on them. So that's one. That is very developmentally appropriate because children likes to do that. Sorry. Next is Play-Doh. Have Play-Doh. If you have nothing to offer to the children, use Play-Doh. Play-Doh should always be a choice for children. And this can bring a lot to them. Language, fine motor skills, creativity, sharing, so many things, cognition. So this can do a lot of things for you and for the children. Number three, have the sand and water play should be available. If they say, oh, no, we don't have this kind of facility, well, we can use our basins, or we can use our batcha. No? Put some kinetic sand. We can buy this in uh, educational stores, or you can order it online. We have sand and water, of course, and just have to put some toys in it. This is more for exploration. At the same time, this is for sensory development. Okay, number four, if you want to do it that up or developmentally appropriate, always use materials which are child size. So for example, this is place a child sized broom by the messy areas to increase self-help. Because even the children, they always wanted to sweep floors. They always wanted to do mopping. But if the broom is so big, of course they cannot do it. So if you want to train them, one of the principles or one of the things that you can do is have a child size materials. Okay, and this is very helpful. In my case, make sure tissue sheets and paper towels are accessible to children to increase self-help, so that you don't have to wipe them, you don't have to clean everything for them. You can ask them to do it. And these paper towels are very absorbent. It could really clean a lot of surfaces. Okay, number six, bring real objects for exploration. So I always believe in the CPA method. That's one of my topics before here in Davao. If you want them to learn, if they really want them um, to be skilled, to generalize things for general usage, or how these things works and how these things help them, bring real objects for exploration. Well, CPA means concrete, pictorial, abstract. Uh, before you presented them pictures, before you presented them um, abstract lessons, when we deal with special education children or children in the SPED and ECE, we have to bring the real object. Okay, number seven, use conflicts between children as opportunities for learning through problem. I remember before when we fight, you get scolded, or you're gonna be they're gonna bring you in the guidance office or the principal's office. But in developmentally appropriate, whatever conflicts that the children are having, even with your children, use those conflicts for opportunities for them to learn and problem solve. For example, if they don't want to, if the child doesn't want to share, you can ask them, oh, if you're not going to share, what will happen? So use this time to facilitate these conflicts between the children, so they will experience it firsthand. All right. Number eight, please, mga ka-teach, do not cut out patterns for children. Um, for example, may papagawa po kayong artwork sa kanila, pero nainip na po kayo na lang naggupit. Hindi po developmentally appropriate yun. So, if you think that the children are slow, then give few tasks or mas konti po. Hayaan nyo. An example of this is like, okay, pack away, pero nainip ka na. Ikaw na nag-pack away para lumabas na sila ng classroom. Huwag pong ganun. Parang bigyan nyo po sila ng ample time. So, do not do things for the children. So, if you put that in your activity plan, make sure that you have enough time. And again, give them activities that they can really do, or it's within their milestone. Okay, number 9, do not force children to participate in activities. Offer choices. So if you say, if you don't want to do this, so what do you want to do? Let them speak their mind. And if you can give them that, but of course, if they don't follow you, okay, they can choose the other thing, but there's always consequences. So they have to understand that, you don't just reprimand them. It's this part is more of the processing part, that okay, you can have what you want, but later on, not everything that you want can be given to you. Okay, number 10, allow children to do what they can do for themselves, please. So this is part already of the routine of the preschoolers and the children in special education. When we do activities of the daily living or self-help skills, please let them do it by themselves. And please secure, or please present to them uh, task analysis card so that they can follow the step-by-step uh, thing to um, when they do the ADL or the self-help skills that you want them to do. Okay, we're down to the last two. Hang in there. So this again is, if you think this is a little too much, again, you can just have papers, or you can just prepare drawing books for them or sketch pads for them. The easel should be open. This is more of the children to explore. This is for the children to express themselves. Again, according to the Reggio Emilia curriculum, there are hundreds of languages wherein the child expresses his learning. So this one might be one of them. Okay, and the last one, do small activities versus large groups. So um, if you have a big class, you can actually put them into small groups according to their capabilities. So so these are the things. These are the samples that you can do. Okay, so actually that ends uh, my lecture for today. I hope teachers that you were able to get some from this developmentally appropriate uh, practice webinar. And thank you everyone for listening to me, for staying, for all the teachers all over the Philippines. Thank you very much. And if you'd like to follow me, please follow my page. My page is a teacher Margaux, and as I've introduced a while ago, um, I am the executive director of Acadev QC, which is a training and learning center for teachers. So that ends my lecture. I don't know if you have some questions. If you have some questions, I would love to answer them if I can. So God bless everyone. Thank you so much for this opportunity again sa ating mga kabibal.
Thank you so much, Teacher Marco. We'll proceed po to our question and answer.
Sure
The
po.
first one is from Miss Bam. How successful is the school at actually educating special needs students?
I'm sorry po. Again,
Again
ma'am.
po. How successful is the school at actually educating special needs of students?
Uh, okay. Hi, Miss Bam. I don't know if you're asking me as of the moment or from the previous years. Well, if we are to talk about the previous years, no, I would say that we are doing pretty good, because now we have more awareness, and we have more special education teachers. We even have SPED majors now. Back in the days, during my time, wala pong major in special education, puro masteral po bago makapagano. And now, marami na rin tayong SPED schools. And if I were to speak of our schools or the school that I'm handling, so far po, because we, from the recent year, of course not this year, no, from this recent year, we have a lot of students, and we are able to have different programs, because in SPED we have 3 tier of a program. We have to have programs for the early intervention, which is like 3 to 7. We have programs for 7 to 14, and then we have programs for 14 to 21 years old. So if you are asking me how's the special education doing in the Philippines, or in my experiences, so far po, I wouldn't say it's very, very successful yet. But since pinush na din po nila yung inclusive education, at least we're improving po. We are practicing the right things po sa ngayon. Ayan.
Thank you po, Teacher Margaux. For the next one is from Miss Niza Ante. This is the topic I am waiting for, Dr. Margaux. How how can DAP be used or injected in a traditional setup? Is it possible po? Thank you.
Ano po yung pangalan niya po, ma'am?
Ma'am Niza Ante.
Hi, Ma'am Nisa Ante. Yes, ma'am. Thank you for appreciating my topic. And if you were to ask me kung pwede siyang i-combine, yes, ma'am. Kasi we have a thing called eclectic education. For example, merong traditional, mag-i-embed lang po kayo. Ngayon, the basic po, ayun, pwede. Simulan niyo na po yun, yung mga 12 steps how to make it uh, uh, DAP appropriate. Tapos, I could say po na para masimulan nyo, kung interesado po kayo dito, what you can do is you start with ano po yung mga bagay na kaya nyong ibigay ngayon na medyo pasok dun sa 12 principles ng DAP. Halimbawa po, for sure, pina-follow nyo naman na ngayon yung age-based. Pwede po kayong maglagay na ng mga activities na gagawin niyo ng once or twice a week lang muna. Halimbawa po, kung traditional school kayo, wala pa pong self-help skills na ini-embed, pwede nyo na pong isama yon. Pwede na po tayong maglagay ng mga activities of the daily living. So ito yung mga ginagawa rin natin sa bahay, sa labas ng bahay. Pwede rin po tayong yun na po, pwede na po tayong magpa-grouping sa mga bata para makita natin yung kumbaga po para ma-group natin sila according sa kanilang capabilities. Hindi naman po kailangang palitan. Actually po, it can go hand in hand with whatever curriculum that you have. Siguro po, you just go over the principles. Tapos ang pinaka gist kasi po nito, ma'am, is yung pagrespeto po. Actually po, ang gist po ng DAP ay yung pagrespeto dun sa edad ng bata at ano po yung kaya niyang gawin at this particular time. So I think we can start with that. Kung sa paanong paraan man po ninyo yun magagawa sa inyong eskwelahan. But the easiest po is to embed some activities po doon sa mga bata. Ayun po, ma'am.
Thank you po. Next question po is from Miss Lady Jeff Lindayag. Teacher, if there is a student who happens to be allergic to clay and sands, what can we use as an alternative? Thank you po.
Okay, for the clay, if the child is allergic to clay, you can use dough, like yung flour talaga. Pwede siyang gumamit nun, no? Gumawa kayo ng sarili yung clay. Kasi yung mga may allergy o kaya yung mga bata na hindi napipigilan pong kainin siya, although yung Play-Doh, pwede naman siya kainin, hindi non-toxic yun. Pwede po kayong gumawa ng sarili niyo. Para pong nagbe-bake, ganun. Gawa po kayo, lagyan niyo ng food color, pwede pong gawing clay yun as an alternative. Sa sand po, pwede kayo, kung allergic, hindi rin pwedeng sandpaper. Kung allergic po, wag na lang po. Pero kung pwede naman, kung allergic siya, pwede po sigurong mag-gloves. Kung talagang gusto natin siyang pahawakin ng sand. Although kasi ang ano sana natin doon ay para sana sa sensory integration. Hindi ko alam kung hindi ko pa po na-try kung pwedeng lupa. Baka kung di siya allergic sa lupa, baka pwede loam soil, parang ganun po. Pwede niyo pong i-try. Pero kung hindi naman po, pwede naman pong mag-clay na lang muna kayo. Ayun po. Tapos gawa po kayo ng sarili ninyong clay. Ayun po.
Okay, thank you po, teacher. Now, the last question po is from Miss Myla Estrada. Dr. Palencia, does your school have distance learning program for a non-verbal student with ASD?
Ma'am, kasi kung sa school po namin, pwede pong gawa ng program kasi we do one-on-one naman. We have SPED online po, one-on-one. Depende po kasi sa capabilities. Tsaka syempre po kailangan matingnan yung bata, ma-assess, ganyan. So, ako naman po, sa school namin, hindi po kami tumatanggi. Lalo po sa academic, hindi po kami tumatanggi. Sa Kids Coco, hindi rin po kami tumatanggi. Pero depende nga po kung kaya naming ibigay. So, maybe we can start with an assessment of that. Kung ano po, pwede niyo po akong i-message. Pero kung kaya po, even with the non-verbal, as long po kasi, ngayon po kasi ma'am sa synchronous and asynchronous, kailangan po talaga ng support and participation po ng ating mga magulang. So if you're interested po with that, we can talk it over naman din po. You can inquire po in our page. Thank you po.
That's all the questions that we have for now, Teacher Margaux. Any last reminders to our viewer for today po?
Ayan. Yun po, I hope na I'm really happy with the questions po na even you're at traditional school, you wanted to at least, integrate po. We can always try mga ka-teach in terms of this. And I'm flashing my Facebook page. So if you have questions po, ako po ay advocate ng mga bagay na ito sa abot po ng aking makakaya. Kung meron po kayong katanungan about DAP, about SPED, pwede niyo po akong i-message. Magre-reply po ako. Anything po para sa mga bata, gagawin po natin. So, I know that most of us are starting our school year now. I'm really praying na everything will be smooth. And ayun nga po, mga ka-teach, mga kabibal, kapit lang po. Kayang-kaya po natin yan. Thank you po and God bless sa inyong lahat. Maraming salamat po ulit sa Bibal for having me.
There we have it. On behalf of Bibal Group, I would like to thank you, Teacher Margaux, for being our speaker this morning.
My honor po, as always.
Thank you po for this insightful and comprehensive learning session. It is truly to have you with us today po. And to all our Kabibal viewers, all thanks to you for your continuous patronage to our daily learning session. We encourage you to subscribe and watch on our official Bibal Facebook and YouTube channel. Muli maraming salamat at magandang araw sa ating lahat. Happy weekend, everyone!
Happy weekend po, mga kabibal. Bye-bye po.